Coming up next on MCN, the McAllen Cable Network, the Development Corporation of McAllen from McAllen City Hall. The Development Corporation appointed by the City Commission is charged with making recommendations on how to use money that's been raised from the half-cent sales tax that was approved by McAllen voters on May the 3rd, 1997. The recommendation is made to the City Commission. They make the final decision. And now, the Development Corporation of McAllen.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Development Corporation. It's a joint meeting with the Development Board, Community Development Board, and would like to thank them for joining us today. And before we get started, I want to congratulate Tony Aguirre, our newest board member for the Development Corporation. This is his first day with us. Also a city commissioner here with us as well. And so first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting held on Tuesday, February the 22nd, 2022. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now if the Development Corporation would like to open their meeting as well.
Open the meeting? Yeah. Yeah, we'll call the meeting to order at 5:33.
Great. Sounds good. And so we're going to start by listening to the request for funding from the Development Corporation. Is there anything that the Development Corporation Board would like to say prior to us getting started? Okay. So this is what we typically do in our due diligence, listening to the request, and we'll have a meeting after this to actually make decisions or recommendations that go before the City Commission that will get approved during our budget times and second meeting in September. And so if there's no other discussion to be had by Development Corporation or Development Board, we're gonna go ahead and get started with hearing the applications. So the first application is Comfort House Services, Inc.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, respective board members and employees from the City of McAllen. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come and speak to you this afternoon on behalf of Comfort House. My name is David Pettis. I'm the executive director for the organization, which is just a couple of blocks down from here. In regards to the Development Corporation application that you have in front of you, the amount that we are requesting is specifically for compensation for the work that our caregivers do, okay, which is provide 24-hour care, palliative care to the dying. Last year, when I was sitting here talking to you all about how we had to shut down for 2 weeks because COVID had hit our facility, and 6 out of 9 of 6 residents that we had in-house had contracted the virus. And it was a very difficult time for us because as it is, they were already there with a terminal illness, and then with the virus on top, it just made it very difficult for us to be able to care for them because we are not a hospital. So we had to close for 2 weeks. But with that being said, things went very well after we reopened, and we've managed to be able to keep the virus away from our patients still. However, it has taken turns amongst myself and all of the staff. We've all had our downfall with the virus, but we've still managed to keep it away from all of our residents, which is a good thing. And like I said, the money that we're asking for is for the compensation for the caregivers that we have on hand that take care of these individuals, and they do a great job. It is a little bit more than we requested last year, but we had to bump up what we offer our staff hourly to stay in the competitive market of caregiving, because a lot of places have gone up far way above and beyond hourly than what we offer. So in order to keep staff on board, had to work a little bit harder regarding fundraisers and additional grants and things like that to be able to cover, what it is that we offer our staff. Do we have any questions?
David, what is your yearly operating budget?
Yearly operating budget, 464.
David, do you have an update? Maybe you've given an update in the past, but I also want to say thank you. Your application is really complete. On the lawsuit, whatever happened, what was the status of that?
Stopped.
Stopped?
Yes, ma'am.
It's over?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay. I thank you all for your time, and as I ask every year, excuse me for my nervousness, but thank you all.
But
Have a good afternoon.
thank you.
Thank you,
and your
David.
staff. You do a tremendous job.
Appreciate that. God bless.
God bless.
All right, McAllen Economic Development Corporation?
Good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Hi, Keith.
Okay, are we ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity to present our budget requests for the 2022-23 budget year. And I'm McAllen Economic Development. I'm Keith Patridge. I'm the president of the organization. Mark Garcia is the executive vice president, and this is my board chair, Mark Freeland. Our budget for this year, or for the fiscal year 22-23, is $1,390,528.11. This is a decline from this current year budget of $28,061.89, and that is resulting from we had a long-term employee that retired, and we replaced that person with a lower level or a lower salaried employee. We are asking the city for the same amount this year or next year as what we have received this year, which is $950,000. The difference between the $1,390,528.11 and the $950,000 will be picked up as a grant from the McAllen Foreign Trade Zone. And we have presented this to the board. They have not voted on it yet, of course, but they have agreed to that amount. And so that means that we will be picking up $440,528.11. This is a $61,515 increase over what we are doing this year. So we're picking up an additional $61,000. What the budget, we have a number of elements, as we all know. Inflation is driving a lot of cost upward, and so we've had significant line items in our budget that will be, that we anticipate will be increasing or that we know will be increasing, and that's what we have developed the budget off of. We were asked on the material as we prepared for tonight's hearing to just talk a little bit about what the impact of COVID has been. For the last 2 years, it has impacted us substantially, simply because we deal with companies who are looking at relocating their operation. Many of our companies are foreign based, and of course, foreign-based companies, we've had the shutdowns, we've had the flight issues of being able to fly, or the flights have been blocked. And now, I don't know whether you have noticed, but last week, China just was shut down again for a new round of COVID. So travel, as a result of that, we did not use about $90,000 of our travel. So we have a carryover, we'll have a carryover of about $60,000 of that that will be carried over into next year's budget, and it's included in the numbers that I gave you earlier. The amount that we're looking from the city is $950,000. In addition to that, as I mentioned, inflation, supply chain issues, the shortages of computer chips, all of those things, while they are a problem for everyone right now, it really could be a big opportunity for us in the coming years, because what it's doing is it's driving companies to really start looking at that reshoring and nearshoring that you've been reading about. And we are seeing that actually happen. That's going to take place over a number of years, because you just can't pick up and move a company in just a very short period of time. They have to locate replacement suppliers local here, and so we're dealing with a lot of supplier-based companies. And is that it? Okay. With that, I would accept any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
The only question I was gonna note is that in the financials, we received an income statement. Was it just left out, the balance sheet, the current balance sheet or for 222? There's an income statement in the package only.
Yeah, what we are doing right now is we are in the process of changing our accounting system over when we were preparing this, and we're moving from the SIMA program to a QuickBooks program, and we did not have all of the system in place at the time that we submitted the budget.
So you will be.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. The
Yeah.
Community Development Board would like to know when the 2021 audit will be ready. Do you have any idea?
It's included in the package.
Is it? Okay, I didn't see it. Thank you.
And Keith, revenues, what you showed in revenue for the year was $458,000. Included the city of McAllen, $316,000. What revenue from the city of McAllen is that?
That's the annual allocation we get from whatever the commission chooses to provide us.
That's year to date.
Yeah, and that's year to date. That's
Oh, of
the amount.
If it was 950, this is year to date 360.
Yes, yes, that's correct.
So the other revenues that I see there are, I guess, rents from the foreign trade zone. And so if we have a $950,000 a year, what is other revenues per year? Approximately.
The other revenues, you're talking about?
Other than city revenues, what are the revenues?
Yeah, the $440,000 will be coming from the foreign trade zone in the form of a grant to MEDC.
Okay, so that's what y'all are thinking that will be the revenues for the year?
That
Or
will,
the future year?
that's for next year. This year, it's the same thing, Commissioner, only it is on this budget year. But we pick up, right this year, I think it's about 42% of our total budget, the foreign trade zone picks up for.
And I know, and for public consumption, I know that a lot of our storage is at the foreign trade zone. How is that handled?
Excuse me?
A lot of the storage that we need for everything from parade supplies and other things that we store there, how is that reflected in any of this revenue?
No, it's not, because that's a foreign trade zone, and the foreign trade zone does not receive any funding outside. We generate all of our own funding. That's a value that we provide to the city it's actually the float studio, as Joe told me, which is where they construct the floats. So they're operating year-round in that building. It's about a 50,000 square foot building. We estimate that it has a value of somewhere around $250,000 a year now at current lease rates. We give that to the city at $1 a month plus triple net. They pick up the insurance and taxes.
And that's what I wanted you to
Yes.
reflect so that people know.
Yeah, if you look at everything that the zone gives back to the organization, which of course is a sister company. We have the $440,000. We also give $250,000 from the value of the building that we provide the city for the float construction. And then in addition to that, a lot of people think that in the foreign trade zone we do not pay property taxes. This year we paid $800,000 of property taxes.
Close to 50 cents per 100 valuation of the 800 comes back to the city.
Mm-hmm.
And the school district gets around
They get a
dollar,
big piece, yeah.
whatever, 23
Yeah.
or something like that.
And then the
da, da,
county.
da, da, da. Then the county.
Keith, how do you measure the success of MEDC? I know over the last couple of years, it's been difficult, with the focus maybe has been shifting, and rightfully so with the challenges with China. But how do you measure the success that development that MEDC is having, and how do you track that?
We track it in a number of ways. We look at, each month we measure the number of companies we're actively working, the number of companies we have lost for one reason or another. Either the project goes stale or it ceases or to exist. In other words, a project dies, or we lose it to another city or another location. And then we track all of the successes that we have. And during the last 12 months, for example, and it's kind of as early as we are in a year while I'm looking at the last 12 months, we were able to work with the city, and Roy and his team have been really, really great to work with, but because a lot of these projects wouldn't have happened without them. But we're successful in bringing 5 new industrial parks commitments to the city. For about 468 acres of new industrial land. They approximately will result in about 1.7 million square feet of space and create at least 1,500 jobs and add over $128 million of new value into the community. Those are Elio Bateo's 2 parks that we're working on, one on South 10th, one on 23rd Street. Those are already, I just checked with Elio, the new buildings on 23rd are already 60% sold or leased. And then his park on 10th Street, he has 25 lots and all 25 of them are already pre-sold. Then we have McAllen South Industrial Park, which is the Phallic property. and that's 120 acres, and they should start construction soon. Again, the city assisted with an EDA grant that would not, that's what made that project possible. And then we have working with Roy and the city on the site at Adela and Ware, the city-owned site, which is about 128 acres. We have one commitment already on that for about 14 acres, 120,000 square feet of new construction for a user build project. And then we have a 90-acre site, again, that we're working with Roy and his team on for the tech company, which will be a chip manufacturer and software company. So in total, we have then just this month, and I reported in the board meeting, we have a new 60,000 square foot user that's taking or 60,000 square feet up on North 23rd Street for a food processing operation that they want to set up in that facility. A Reynosa Maquila plant just took 120,000 square feet that was being, literally, we had a competition for that space in the Killam property. They just leased that for 120,000 for a combination logistics manufacturing operation. And then another Reynosa company will be starting construction on their property, which is Enrique Castro, the land right across the street from our property, which has taken a long time to put together, but we've been successful, again, with the help of the city and a lot of people in this room, so thank you. And then Amazon, we have a 55,000 square foot last mile facility, which has about 150 employees right now, and they're growing, as you can see on the internet or on their web pages and their Facebook. Yeah. And then we are currently working 24 projects with a possible 2,600 jobs and about 1.8 million square feet. So
sounds good.
That's what we use, Commissioner, to measure what we do, and we measure it every month, and we go through these every Monday. We as a team meet to discuss each project to find out where we are and what we need to do to try to push it over the finish line.
So does the EDC also consider local companies in their mix? If, let's say, a company from another city nearby wants to move into McAllen, EDC would also get involved in that and try to bring them to here?
We do. We purposely, and this has just been our philosophy, is we do not go out and actively try to recruit from another city in the valley. And the reason is it doesn't make any sense to us, because if you're moving a company, all you're doing is moving the location, and what you're doing is probably forcing a bunch of employees to have to drive to get to work. And so we will help them, but we do not,
come to you, right?
we do not
You
go
don't
after
go to them.
incentives or anything, or
That
go
sounds
after them, no.
That sounds good. Any other questions?
Yeah, Keith, in 2021, how many new jobs do you think you created on the US side?
Oh, I couldn't tell you right now, but it's I would say at least 800 to 1,000 conservatively. Yeah, in addition, those are generally expansion jobs, and in the last 12 months, we've had 12 expansions in McAllen for 1,700 new jobs. And then in Reynosa, we had 7 expansions for 4,901 jobs.
Keith, so in the past, you've been real good about talking to us about your pipeline. So just to put it simply, in 2021, you had how many in your pipeline and how many were successful? Businesses or companies?
Well, again, it's in 2021, it's difficult to
Well,
say.
just a range.
Yeah,
that's
about
fine.
a 7 to 8 on the US side and about 4 to 5 on the Mexico side.
And that was out of, what was your, I mean, those were the successes, but how many that you were going after?
As I say, we average about 24 companies every month, 24 to 35, and as each month some fall off. The way we're set up is we have new companies that we start working with in a month. And then during that same month, we have two areas of what we call active prospects. We have those that we have actually touched during the last 30 days that we are actively involved with. By that, I mean we're in communication with them probably 2 or 3 times a week. Then we have another group that we are still actively working them, but they're not as active as the one level. Then we have a group that is, we code them as yellow because we have not touched base with them in the last 30 days. For one reason or another, they won't return calls or whatever that may be. They stay on that list for 90 days, and then they go into a red list, which if they're on a red, it means that if we don't hear from them in 30 days, they go off of the list, and so the numbers is vacillating up and down based upon what's happening with the companies that we're working with. In most cases, a lot of those companies are, for one reason or another, they are either in the process of evaluating information that they have, they're waiting for financing, they're waiting for board approval, or one thing like that. So it typically, a company on most, for all the years I've been doing this, it takes between 18 and 24 months for a company from the time we first meet with them to the time they make a decision. And so that's on average. So to measure, and I appreciate the question, because measuring it is, you kind of have to have a different system so you can kind of track all these companies along. We also use Salesforce. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. We use Salesforce to track all of this and generate our reports. So.
Sounds good.
Good.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Keith.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Keith.
Next, we'll be listening to Lift Fund, Inc.
He doesn't look like he's. He'll be here for
That's why I looked at it.
I thought about it too.
No.
Eli, I don't think he's in the.
Thank you for joining us, Marlene. You can go ahead.
Hi there.
Hello.
Congratulations on your promotion as well.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mishi Bruns Clay, and I'm the Regional Vice President for Lift Fund. I have the responsibility of the South Region as well as the East Region. So Lift Fund is respectfully requesting $200,000 in grant funds to continue the work that we've done here in providing 0% interest loans to small businesses and entrepreneurs. Since Marlene has had 21 years of experience, I would like for her to share with you the impact of this money so far.
Good afternoon. My name is Marlene Rodriguez, and I'm the Business Development Officer for Lift Fund, and I have been with the organization for 21 years. Like Mitchie said, we are respectfully requesting funding for the 0% interest buy-down. We have dispersed, since the inception of the program, $6.3 million in capital to small businesses here in the McAllen area. Across our footprint, we have dispersed over $27 million across the Rio Grande Valley to small businesses. This interest buy-down, what it does is normally buy-downs the interest rate. Our normal interest rate is capped at a 9%. So any small business owner that is seeking for funding to either start their business or grow their business here within the city of McAllen, if they would qualify, of course, they would have to be unbankable, not be able to acquire funding to traditional sources. They would be able to qualify for a 0% with the buy-down that we are requesting from the city. Any questions?
see that you program or believe that you can successfully fund 15 in a year? Is that what I was reading?
Yes, through this, with this funding, this will help us or allow us to help or assist at least 15 small businesses within the community. Depending on their loan size, what they're requesting, we are trying to help as many small business owners that we can within the area.
And the amounts are from what to what?
They range anywhere from $500 up to $250,000. Normally, our average loan size has been about 22. Mhm.
How much do you loan out every year?
Within the city has been, since 2013, has been 6.3 million. Normally, it's anywhere about 251,000 only within the city of McAllen
So you just basically take this money and use it for that purpose?
for the buy down interest rate. Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
What's the
we have-
payback period?
Community Development has a question about the audit, your 2021 audit. Do you know when it's going to be ready?
No, I don't. I can get that information for you. Yeah, absolutely.
If you can just let Yvette know.
Absolutely.
What's the payback period on these loans?
It's up to 60 months. Mhm.
And you do other type of loans also? This is just what comes out of this category?
Yes, we have our SBA 7A
Right.
Community Advantage Loan Program.
That's what I wanted
Mhm.
for people to understand, that you're there in our community. Yes, you do this, but you do others for other bigger firms,
Yes, correct.
other financing. Thank you.
So the money's only gonna be used to buy down the rate. It's not for administrative reasons or salaries or anything like that.
The request is 200,000 using 195,000 for buy down and 5,000 for marketing purposes
Oh,
for-
okay.
to promote the program.
Sure.
Can I follow up a question, Ms. Rodriguez? I think I understood the question. So the $200,000 is just for the buy down of the interest. And so I think the question from the board member is, how much is the loan value that you do on a yearly basis? That's not the loan value, that's just the buy down of the interest. So the total dollars that you loan to a vendor is how much?
Normally, in something like this, it's double, so normally it's anywhere from 400,000 to 600,000 that we lend out on a 200,000, based on my experience on past, on the previous years from the past.
Because I think the figure you used was a little over $6 million since 2013.
6.2.
6.2 million. 6.2 million, 81,000. So it's 6.2.
Was that your question?
Sure, yes.
I don't know if we mentioned also, so in addition to just the lending capital, also the business support as well, as we understand, we're all in a pandemic still, so there's a lot of business support, hand-holding, technical assistance that's also wrapped around this lending capital as well, to make sure that they're sustainable businesses and can create generational wealth.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
I just was wondering also, I know we asked about the audit and there was no response as far as when you think that's gonna be done, but I don't see a current financial statement. And I know the application calls for, was it end of January 22, Yvette? I just don't see it in the package, so
Oh,
There's,
that's what's required to be submitted.
there's an audit, right?
There's an audit for December 30. For 2020, but we just need the current one for
Yeah, but
2021.
the
I'll give you my
application
card and I'll
calls
make
for
sure that we
a
get
balance
that to
sheet
you.
besides the audit.
Right. We had asked for current financial statements.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an audit, it's a balance sheet 2020,
2020. And so
Yeah.
I believe the application called for into January 2022, whether you get it through QuickBooks or through your CPA, just a current balance sheet. So that's what I was just wondering about.
Absolutely, and I can give, like, again, both of you my card and make sure that we get that to you within the
To
next
Yvette,
24 hours.
to Yvette's office.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, South Texas College. They're lending out like 6 million annually to buy down 9% interest.
The interest is very high.
It's
Very,
9%.
very high. How much?
9%.
So it buys down to zero, right, Omar? Does it go to zero?
That's what they say.
Yeah.
Hi.
'Cause if it
Thank you
was-
for joining
if
us.
the
You can
average
go
is
ahead.
$680,000
Thank you.
a year.
Good evening. Let me introduce myself. My name is Carlos Margo. I serve as Associate Dean at South Texas College for the Office of Industry Training and Economic Development. I also oversee the Institute for Advanced Manufacturing. And we're the non-credit part of the continuing education workforce training side of the college. With me is Leonel Garcia. He's the training manager for the Institute for Advanced Manufacturing. And what we do, briefly, in our side of the college, is we provide industry recognized certifications, workforce training, all kinds of training for individuals, whether it's incumbent workers or individuals who are looking for a job, people who are in the process of getting a new job, need an upgrade, etc. We have over 500 different programs that we can offer. We can scale them. We can tailor them according to an employer's actual needs or to an individual's needs. And 80% of our clientele are employers. But what we do is develop programs according to what's needed as far as occupations. But primarily what we do is give certifications. It's no longer a matter of just providing them a certificate of completion. We make sure that we're providing them with an actual credential that they'll have for life. Kind of like a degree on our academic side of the college, but this is industry recognized. An apprenticeship journeyman certification, for example. NIM certification, which is for metalworking, recognized nationwide. We have FANUC certification for robotics that's internationally recognized for robotics operations. And as industry continues to move more and more towards automation and robotics, we're maintaining ourselves at the forefront of that initiative, primarily because of the funding that we get from grants that we apply for, such as this one. We submitted an application for $499,000. A lot of that goes towards tuition, but part of that does go towards capacity building as well. And what that does, it allows us to reinvest in the college, in the department, and further grow our equipment, our capacity to offer training to other employers. And we work closely with the Economic Development, McAllen Economic Development Corporation, to identify the prospects in business and to make sure that we're at the same table, ensuring that these prospects have access to the exact workforce training that they need in order to establish themselves, in order to expand, or all of the above. And one thing I do want to emphasize is as the non-credit side of the college, we're completely autonomous when it comes to our budget. We are self-funded. Yes, we are part of the college, but we operate under a restricted budget, which means that we have to generate every single dollar in order for us to operate, in order for us to remain solvent. So we rely on our expertise to submit grant proposals in addition to our expertise in providing workforce training. So these funds come in really handy, not only to provide workforce training, which results in increases in wages, it results in increased productivity, decreases in turnover for employers, and I can go on. I know our time is short here, but at the same time, that funding allows us to survive as a department. And that's why I do want to say thank you to the commission, to the city, the Development Corporation for funding, providing this funding through the years, because it has really helped us become who we are today as a division. It has helped us build the capacity that we have now, which is exactly what our regional, and I will say regional, business and industry need right at this point, and our economy. The economy at the end is the beneficiary of this funding. The return on this investment trickles all the way down. We talk about wage increases, obviously it benefits the city, but the entire region as well. The majority of our trainees and our clientele are McAllen businesses. So I appreciate the funding in the past. We look forward to continue this program. And at this point, unless Leo has anything else, I would like to open it up to questions or comments.
Any questions?
I have a question. Is there a structured program to survey companies to see what the actual increase in wages are for the companies, for the employees that were already there? Was there actually a benefit to them, or this is just an additional certificate for them? Is there?
Yes, and thanks to other grants that we received from the Texas Workforce Commission, for example, a requirement there is to track wages. So we apply that same methodology to other grants, such as the one we received from the Development Corporation, which is to track wages. And a lot of times we do that just for our own benefit as well, but it's also available for the benefit of the community to see what outcomes, what the benefits are. But at the same time, we have to subcategorize this training because, for example, customer service training across the board for a manufacturing company, I'll provide as an example, does not necessarily result in a wage increase, and it's not necessarily intended to result in a wage increase. So in that case, customer service training improves the overall benefit to the employer, but it's not something that's really targeting a wage increase. Now, somebody who's a production technician and wants to become an industrial maintenance technician, those trainings typically do result in a wage increase, should they successfully complete. And those are the ones we track, and it could be even not even moving into another grade or category, occupational level. It could be, we see a lot of, let's say, frontline individual production workers who receive wage increases upon completion of training. And again, that's another good example of the positive results of this. And again, there's other means, and I'll go a little bit further to answer your question. We are working with our internal department that tracks and helps us with all of the data collection and surveys. As a matter of fact, we just had a meeting this morning where we're talking about this thing. This topic has to do with helping that department help us create surveys specifically for employers to see how we can actually measure their increases in productivity. I want to see that. I want to see that in black and white. So we're going to do it as quantitatively as we can, and we're doing that internally. As a matter of fact, we've done it in our department, but now we're expanding using the college's broader resources to help us do that.
Thank you.
Hey, Carlos, who
Yes, sir.
determines the training that is going to be given? Is it the company or you?
The employer tells us what they need. Now, we have a system in place. We do needs assessments. So it's a procedure, a process that helps us identify what those needs are. And it's through the years we've established the relationship to the point where we almost know what the employers need before they know at times. But typically it comes from the employers. We need whatever it is. We're going to get audited. OSHA's coming. We need OSHA training quickly. So we'll turn around, provide OSHA. OSHA is pretty standard, but they will also say, we just got a new line of equipment. We need our individuals trained in a new aspect of automation. PLC, industrial computer training, for example. So it typically comes from the employer.
So if you had to choose about 3 or 4 skills that you will teach with this money, what would they be?
I would focus on industrial maintenance is always a big one, and that's the one that I personally like because machine goes down in production, it really hurts. So somebody who can turn that machine, troubleshoot it, get it up and running again. A lot of these machines now involve both electrical and mechanical combinations of production, so it requires a lot of expertise, a lot of skills, and somebody who's quick thinking, but somebody who can unlearn as well is something that I want to be able to say, because people sometimes are used to doing things before automation enters the workforce, their particular workforce. But these are the individuals who have to kind of put everything aside they've learned in the past and start learning new things. And that's the kind of individual we typically train, is somebody who can learn new skills, upskill training.
Thank you.
Carlos, how did the 750 workers that'll get trained, do y'all track if we're spending money to retrain, even if it's a different training than maybe they got before? I mean, because if I was a company, I'd keep submitting, right? And if I had the same employees, do we constantly pay to retrain?
Not, we're intentional when it comes to retraining, doing the same thing over and over again for the same employer. So we try to make sure that if there's a training, if somebody receives a certain training, we will make sure that, well, one, we don't offer the same training twice, the same individual. But if it needs any, if that same employer, you know, is asking for the same type of training, there's a finite amount of funding. And we want to make sure that we prioritize the funding among as many employers in McAllen as possible. So we try to hit as many employers. Now, it's very difficult with our current budget to get that out there. The clientele is really growing, and it goes pretty quickly. I think we're already at the point now with this fiscal year, with the current year's funding, I think we're just about out of funding just because of the demand. There's been a lot of employers that are coming back to work doing something different, and we try to hit as many different employers as possible when it comes to that.
How do you decide, you know, let's say there's a company in McAllen that needs training. You mentioned earlier that a lot of companies, you know, pay for their own training. How do you decide if it's going to come out of their pocket or the city's pocket?
What we do, typically what we try to focus on are new production, new aspects, for example, a lot of times we defer to McAllen Economic Development, and a lot of these funding goes towards recommendations that they have. You know, we have a new employer coming in, they really need training in X, Y, and Z. That absorbs a lot of that funding. So the majority of it goes into those referrals, if you will, from MEDC. And others will come in from different employers and what we try to do, let me take a step back, is to stay away from the typical training that they could normally, standardized training like OSHA, that I know I used that as an example earlier, but we stay away from that and say, look, you can pay for OSHA, we'll pay for somebody who wants to learn PLC training for programmable logic controls for the first time. If it's a new skill that somebody's learning, we try to prioritize those. You know, we do that. We've done that internally, even though it's not a requirement. It's something that we decided to do internally years ago to prioritize new skills as opposed to repetitive recertifications in forklift and OSHA and other standardized trainings that they can pay for themselves.
Other questions?
What is your yearly budget?
I'm sorry?
Your yearly budget?
For our department? What'd you say?
330,000.
And the reason for the increase of almost $250,000 is because more companies are coming back off of COVID. Was it reduced last year because of COVID, and now we're getting it back to more on par with what has been in years past, or it's a significant increase? What's the reason for it?
It's a combination. A lot of it is reskilling. A lot of it is new skills that individuals who worked with a different employer are now working with somebody new, doing something completely different. We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of just volume. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers would be in the increase in employers, industrial employers in McAllen, but at least anecdotally, I can say that there has been an increase in demand. Leo, I don't know if you have anything further to add on that.
With COVID affecting the majority of all the manufacturing companies, there's been a lot of retraining and repurposing of individuals. So a lot of individuals need to get trained for other areas because they lost some people from current positions. They've had difficulty hiring some individuals, and so there has to be more training involved with. There's a lot of cross training. We saw a lot of cross training since COVID started, and typically yes, we would train some individuals in certain areas, but those same individuals will now need to get trained in other new areas that they typically never needed, and so that's one of the other reasons why we're asking for more funding than the usual.
It's a very exact number, 499,102.
I think we've
what
always
goes into
asked.
this process?
We can deviate a couple of pennies if you need. It has to do with the admin percentage, I think. I mean, we came up with the cost of training, cost of salaries. Salaries includes benefits, which is a certain percentage. So that's why the exact cent. But yeah, it has to do with the percentages related to the benefits probably.
And your guys' administrative costs are 16%.
16%?
Is that what we're seeing on average with other?
It's up to 25.
Up to 25,
25%.
allowed, right?
15%.
Allowed.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
All right, up next, Affordable Homes South Texas. Thank you for joining us. And you may begin after you present your guest with you. We obviously know who you are, Bobby, and visited with you many, many years. And if you can introduce who's with you.
Certainly. So these are my bodyguards. Hector is our senior rehab program manager, and Tony's our construction manager.
Great, welcome.
So they're going to answer all the tough questions. So my name is Bobby Cavillo. I'm the executive director of Affordable Homes of South Texas. For those of you that may not be familiar with the organization, I'll give you a short summary. So we've been around for 45 years. Started with the help of the city, 1976. Our initial purpose was to eliminate outhouses that were in this part of town, the downtown area. And so that's how we got started. Over the years, we've grown a little bit. We added, in addition to the repairs, we also do new construction, subdivision development, and we also finance the homes that we repair and build. We've added many other services such as homebuyer education, financial literacy, post-purchase education, things of that nature, all related to the purchase and repair of homes. The organization has about 70 employees. Our offices are 2 blocks over. We have loan portfolio of about $60 million, and we service those loans ourselves. So it's a pretty good sized organization, and I think we do a pretty good job in serving our community. Our request today is for $244,000. 184 of that is for construction of homes. Essentially, what we're trying to do is go in and look at a house, particularly for families with special needs or families that are a little older. And if we can repair the home, we will. If it's beyond repair, we'll tear it down and build them a new one. So in our request, it includes the demolition of a home that might be necessary. We also, on our campus, again, 2 blocks over, we have some emergency units that we use so that if we do have to demolish a home, we have a place for families to live in until we rebuild their house. So it's all part of the service that we provide. In addition to the $184,000, we're also requesting $60,000 for overhead salaries that will help us administer this program for the city. Any questions?
So Bobby, this is all repairs, there's not, is there, what about, does this have anything to do with the New Beginnings program?
It's the restructured New Beginnings. So basically what they'll do is we will allow them to own the home. In the old days, the old New Beginnings program, it was a life estate, and once the family moved on, we would keep the house. In this structure now, the family can own it. If they don't want it, then we can take it back. But if they want to own it, they pay 15% of the total mortgage.
But it also, there's for rehab?
Yes. So we'll go in and try to fix it. If we can't, we'll build them a new one. And unfortunately, the amount is $184,000, and I can't tell you there's gonna be one house and one rehab, or two rehabs and one new house. We just don't know until we actually see it. And then, of course, with the cost of construction, who knows how much it's gonna cost to build a house these days.
The amount that was awarded last year, 236,500, was that fully spent?
Tony or Hector?
These past years, due to unforeseen, like COVID and stuff like that, and the material costs that has been fluctuating so much, there has been a little bit more of an issue trying to qualify the people and spend that whole money. So it did slow down a little, but as of this year, we actually have like 6 people on the pipeline getting approved for the assistance. So we are looking to start getting all of that money out of the way.
Okay, because in the past,
we do have
it's been
them.
challenging finding these kind of
Yes.
rehab projects, right? But it looks like you have 6 prospects at least, and
Yes.
should be able to spend the money this year.
The toughness is not finding the people, the toughness is finding people that do qualify.
Yeah, because of the change in the structure, they now have to qualify for a loan. It might be a small loan, but they still have to qualify for it. The other challenge, of course, as you all know, is getting clear title. That's always a challenge.
And these people that we have already on the pipeline, they are already clear from title. They're being processed to other steps so we can start helping them with their homes.
Sounds good. Other questions?
Is there ever any assistance to those families that can't clear the title?
Well, when we are able to identify some unrestricted grants, then we try. We've also, for example, some families have had past due taxes, property taxes. So in some cases, we're able to make them a personal loan to pay some of those to get them to qualify. So we try to be as creative as we can without going to jail.
What's the interest rate you guys charge on you said you service $60 million in notes?
So it depends. Right now, we're at 4.75. We've had some loans at 0, and we've had some at 7 or 8. So average yield is about 2.5% overall.
Bobby, when you say that now they have to qualify regardless of the size of is it still due to the Dodd-Frank? What is causing that now?
Well, that's part of it. We also just want to be good stewards of the money to make sure that they're able to repay and that we don't have to foreclose or anything like that. But Dodd-Frank is part of it.
So this is,
What's your foreclosure rate running right now?
We haven't foreclosed in 2-3 years.
Great.
so this is a rehab program that includes a repayment part, unlike, let's say, in other cities that it's more of a grant, right?
Yes, so
Okay.
part of it is a grant depending on the amount. So if it's, what is it, 30,000, 40,000?
If we can rehab the house up to $45,000, when do all the repairs that they need, they don't have to pay anything back. If we have to replace the house, then they have to pay back 15% of the total cost
Got it.
Yeah, and that's under this program.
under this program.
Got it.
But the house that you showed me on the tour, that's not a rehab.
No, that's a new construction. Yeah, and that's the brick home that's gonna stay there forever. The homes that we build under this program are usually frame. They're hardy board construction.
Any other questions?
How many people do you think that we are not able to help because of the restrictions on, I mean, like, you say we have 6, but if it wasn't for that, how many would we be able to help? More or less?
In the total of last year, just by itself, we approached approximately 56 people, and out of those 56, only a handful could be assisted, mainly because of ownership issues. And that's something that we can't avoid because we've had instances where people want to get assistance and they want to resell the house. And that's where we need to establish ownership, that we are helping the owner of the property, not a business. we are helping somebody that needs a house and they're gonna live there for the 15 years that the program requires, and they're not just gonna come and get assistance to get profit out of it. So that's something that unfortunately we can't, it's very hard to avoid.
Thank you.
I had a question. On our tour, the last time you had mentioned some funding going down for the lots. Is that not in this one?
No,
Not at all?
that's for the home
For
program.
the home, okay.
This one, the family would already own the lot.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Bobby.
it.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, Valley Initiative for Development and Advancement, otherwise known as VIDA, easier. VIDA is up next.
If you're on the board. If you're on the board, yes.
You're still on there, Tony.
Only the chairman.
Oh,
You might want to walk out.
you might want to leave.
Sorry?
Only as chairman, I mean, you know.
You didn't participate.
This is.
Thank you for joining us. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, DCMI Board. My name is Felida Villarreal, and I am the Deputy Executive Director at VIDA. With me today is also Irma Garcia, our Program and Compliance Manager. I'd like to firstly take this opportunity to thank the City of McAllen and DCMI for the continued support in education and in VIDA's overall mission. For this upcoming fiscal year, we'd like to respectfully request your consideration for a grant award in the amount of $550,000. This is an increase from our current award funding at $440,000. We strongly believe that education builds the best workforce, and for this reason, increased human capital investment is critical for economic development. For over 26 years, VIDA has strived to provide students the necessary resources and tools for education success. Through our unique program model, our counselors provide academic guidance and individualized counseling to help our students overcome the barriers and challenges, including financial struggles, family responsibilities, life stressors, and time management. In addition, our career counselors work very closely with our students to supplement their traditional classroom coursework with soft skills training, which includes resume building, financial planning, budget management, and effective studying skills. VIDA recognizes that the financial barriers for students go beyond the inability to sustain the cost of tuition. Because of your invaluable support, VIDA is able to provide students with financial assistance for tuition, textbooks, childcare, uniforms, and tools for their chosen field of study. These wraparound services equip our students with the knowledge, skills, support, and commitment both for academic and workforce success. A recent economic impact study conducted by UTRGV reported that for every dollar invested in VIDA, there is a return on investment to its funders of $14.74. Your contribution is not a handout. It is an investment in human capital to ensure that the City of McAllen has the necessary skilled workforce for tomorrow's industry needs. Our underserved demographic is often labeled at risk for a variety of reasons. Statistics show our MSA continues to have one of the highest poverty rates in the nation. For these reasons, it is our continued mission to identify these individuals and provide them the individualized case management services for academic success. The pandemic further exposed the reality of how many economically disadvantaged in our community are often the most vulnerable during a crisis. With increased transition to online learning, our students had the assistance to transition into a virtual environment. Our counselors met more frequently with our students via Skype, Zoom, and GoToMeeting to ensure that they had the necessary digital platforms to complete their academic studies. as well as ensure that they had the access to technology and internet for their studying needs. In 2021, the average salary of a VIDA participant upon graduation was $45,614, and our persistence rate on average was a 93%. Moving forward, we hope that with an increase in funding, we continue helping more underserved and unemployed residents of McAllen obtain career success. In turn, we hope that with the continued support, we are able to help our students obtain careers in target demand occupations and secure family-sustaining wages. This way, disposable income for these students increases, spending increases, sales tax revenue increases, dependence on governmental assistance decreases, and we ensure that we have a quality, skilled workforce for our community. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
How many students do you serve every year?
On average, it's 500 students. Last year, we served 464.
And what's your total budget at VITA?
It's around 2.5 million.
And out of those students, how many are from McAllen? Or are they all?
On average, we typically serve around 100 students a year from McAllen.
Which is what percentage of your total?
About 20%.
But all of the funding you receive from Development Corp are from McAllen citizens?
That is correct. The grant from DCMI strictly supports only McAllen residents.
I noticed a financial statement.
How do you keep track of the funding that it's being used for McAllen students when it's a counseling type of session or services? How do you monitor that?
For the counseling?
Or for any of your services, how do you designate that that service was for McAllen?
Well, we have a database that tracks the, the primary residence of the student, so that way we know when we're awarding the student what funding the student will be utilizing. And we do that since the very beginning. So we'll make a projection of their total expenditure for the career, and then we'll ensure that the appropriate allocations are made from the appropriate sources of funding.
Did you send us financials for 2021? I just see period ending February of 2022. Can't tell if it's a fiscal year to date or.
We submitted, those were the most recent financial statements, but we also submitted the annual audit, which would have been for the year ending September 30th, 2020. So we're currently in the process of finalizing our 2021 financial audit.
I guess it leaves us a big gap between the 2020 financials and then this, which looks to be maybe a 1 month statement?
Our fiscal year begins October, so it
okay.
actually would have been 5 months.
Got it.
What about your 990? I saw that we have a 2019. Do we have anything?
Right, so we're currently working on the most updated 990, which should be finalized in the next couple of months, and that will be for the year ending 2021. But the 990 will actually have the 2020.
Other questions, comments, suggestions? Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
All right, 2 applications left. We have Laurel Grand Valley Community Health Corporation, El Milagro Clinic is up next. Yeah, we'll still have a clinic. He's got a concert to go to. You guys see them? You bought the tickets ahead of time? I guess so. Thank you for joining us, and you can get started when you're ready.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you again to present our application for funding. My name is Marisol Resendez, and I am the Executive Director for El Milagro Clinic. And with me today is
Margarita Alvarez, I'm the Operations Manager.
And so our application is for $280,000 for the upcoming fiscal year 22-23. And it is to cover some of the operational expenditures. Like in the past, it is for a percentage of our salaries. I'm so sorry. A percentage of employee salaries, as well as medical supplies and office supplies, and just some operational expenditures. At El Milagro Clinic, we serve the uninsured. We're a nonprofit organization serving the uninsured. And this past fiscal year, we served approximately 4,500 unduplicated patients for a total of 18,000 services in the year. And so we have seen an increase in the amount of patients, both the amount of patients that we're seeing and the services that we're providing. A lot of our patients come back as we offer not just the medical consultations, but also laboratory services, prescription assistance. We do women's health. We have food distribution. We have nutrition services. We have 2 registered dietitians on site that help with diabetes prevention education, diabetes management classes, all evidence-based programs. We also have 2 behavioral health counselors that help with individual, group, and family therapy and counseling for mental health. And so we also have the mobile unit. We got the mobile unit in 2020, but really it was last year that we got it fully working into the colonias. And so we partner with the Arise Centers, and we're there every other week seeing patients and bringing all of the same services into the communities that cannot travel to us. Something very exciting also that happened to us this just September of last year, we started a partnership with Uber Health. And so when we're not able to go to them, we're able to Uber them to the clinic. And we know that that is a big barrier for accessing healthcare. And so more and more of our patients are able to come back to the clinic and get their healthcare needs taken care of. And I don't know if there's any questions for us.
Questions?
What is the compliance on the patients getting better as you see, like nutrition, the diabetes, and so forth?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. We're actually seeing, in a lot of our funding agencies, well, the foundations, both MHM funds us and Valley Baptist Legacy Foundation and KCCF, they've asked us to do, is it really helping the integrated behavioral health approach versus those patients that are not? And we have the results of those reports. And yes, when a patient does take advantage or benefits from getting the nutrition portion, the counseling, along with the physical activity too, but we have stopped those classes for a while since COVID, but they are able to get a lot better. And we have tremendous success stories from both our RDs and our counseling that said, this patient just started and I'm ready to dismiss it, and they put a big check mark on their file. And I'll just share really quickly with you that there's a homeless patient that came he stays at the Salvation Army, and he came very worried. He wasn't sure what was going on with him, and it turned out his diabetes he was just way out of whack, and he did not know that he was a diabetic, but he felt so ill. And he told one of our RDs that he thought he was gonna die. So he started seeing the provider. We started him on some medication as well, but he started seeing one of our registered dietitians. And in a 6-month period, this gentleman is able to now have his A1C below diabetes. So he's now in the pre-diabetic, which is amazing for us to see, as we know that he's got so many barriers. He doesn't have a place to live, and he works at a restaurant, and so he's able to kind of grab the food that is not as healthy. And he has just been so good, according to our registered dietitian, in just doing everything that he's supposed to and taking care of himself. So those are the types of stories that we have, and we know that the integrated approach is working a lot better than just regular meds and go home.
Another question on that, on the medication, are there any barriers to the price that patients can afford? Are you seeing that, or are a lot of pharmacies working with you with chain and retail? Working with you guys?
We have some partnerships, but they are like still some antibiotics that are,
Oh, yeah.
that are a lot pricier that we're not able to help the patient with. But we have a really good prescription assistance programs that we're able to get their medication for chronic diseases for a 3-month supplies for free. So all of those medications we're able to help our patients with. It's a little harder when we're talking about antibiotics and something that is for something acute that the patient comes in for.
Do you treat patients regardless of their immigration status?
We do, yes.
Marisol, are the 1,750 patients, is that McAllen only, or is that?
That is McAllen only. We see about 4,500 total patients, and about 38% of those are McAllen residents. Because of the area.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, up next, Boys and Girls Club of McAllen. Yvette, do we have another application after that, or is that the last one?
No, we did not receive an application from Swing Street.
Okay, so this is our last application. All right.
Joaquin would have asked for it. Bring it to me.
Joaquin,
Too bad.
our music man.
Thank you for joining us, and you may begin whenever you're ready.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna go into teacher mode. I have a document, if you don't mind, passing it on one side and then the other. It just gives you a very quick visual snapshot of our impact and then what we expect in the future. I know we're specifically discussing our DCMI project. However, what you have in front of you is just an operational impact, just a visual of what 2021 looked like for us. In 2020, we served a little under 4,000. We were actually on a trajectory prior to the pandemic to serving over 7,000 registered members with a community outreach. In total, you served at 12,000. So we have been able to bring up that number significantly. And so it has been a blessing to be able to, in 2021, we served a total of 10,351 kids. Our registered members that are active registered members were at 5,230, and then the community outreach component was at 5,121. You saw an average daily attendance, which includes athletics, as well as our DCMI schools. You actually saw that at 1,431, and a big uptick because of DCMI and the investment that the city had in our DCMI programs on campus. You actually saw our teens that are registered come up significantly to 1,226. Now I will tell you for DCMI, I mean, we all know, and we can go on and on about all of the impact that the pandemic had on our children and specifically our teens. So this year, in a partnership with McAllen ISD, we were actually able to expand using ESSER funds. We were able to expand into now officially all of the middle schools. So prior to that, we were not at Fossum Middle School, and we were not at Cathy Middle School. But we were able to secure and allocate funding through the ESSER program for Fossum as well as Cathy. So if you see that corner visual, now we are at every single middle school, and that'll be through, hopefully, the DCMI programs to be able to continue that. And then, of course, we're also at Seguin through DCMI. The kind of center graphic, those are our traditional clubhouses, so that is not the DCMI allocation, but that is both, of course, at our Brand Center and our RONI. A portion of what you will see, because we did increase our ask, we did expand the middle schools, like I mentioned, to 2 additional sites, so the ask is a little bit more. And the reason, by the way, that we actually pulled that number up to the middle school specifically, some people ask us, well, what about the elementary?
Well, the elementaries are actually already served significantly through the City of McAllen Parks and Rec. There's quite a bit of sites that have the city after-school program. But what was happening is actually after students came back from the pandemic and virtual learning, we saw a significant drop in academic achievement, but with those transitional grades, which are gonna be your 5th to 6th grade. So specifically, we're serving 6th graders at all of the middle school campuses through DCMI, and hopefully with the support, we'll be able to continue that. So that was the main reason why we focused on those middle grades. I think we can all remember what middle school was like for us. Imagine going through all of that while coming back from a global pandemic. So we have put in a lot of mental health resources in those middle grade levels, and we're just asking that you continue to help us to support all of those campuses through DCMI.
Thank you for that. Questions? Any questions?
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
No
Wow.
questions for you.
Great.
Wow.
Okay. I'll wait till it's my turn again. Thank you so much. I
All right, thank
appreciate
you.
it.
There being no further business for the Development Corporation, I'll call this meeting to adjourned.